and they came in and took everything away from them, just like they did all the other Jews in the other countries. So she and Anne played together before the war, and one story that she told was that, their life was fairly, quote-unquote, normal when they got there. They were displaced, for sure. They had moved to a whole different country, different language. But, there was other Jewish kids. They got to know one another and play. Their life was pretty normal. And then the Nazis invaded, and they had to wear the yellow star. So then all of a sudden, they couldn't own a bicycle. They couldn't own a boat. They had a rowboat that they used to take out on the lake. They couldn't go to the restaurants. They couldn't go to the theater. And she said the most horrible experience was when all the Jewish kids were standing on the street looking at the marquee that said Snow White. And I think that story, when I tell kids in an elementary school that they weren't allowed to go see Snow White, it becomes real to them. Because what if you weren't allowed to go see Nemo? What if they said, you're a Methodist, you can't go? They were just they were punished for their faith, for being Jewish. So Eva and I have become friends. She lives all the way in London, so we don't see each other very often, but we do email back and forth, and she's become a great supporter of this book. I work with high school age foreign exchange students, so several of my kids I've written, and this happens to be, this book was written by a boy from Romania and illustrated by a girl from Vietnam, so a very international book, and she did a great job illustrating that, didn't she? And that picture of Snow White really looks like it came out of a Disney book, and all the pictures of the girls throughout are very well done, too. So here up above is a picture with Otto Frank and Eva and Eva's mother. So Otto married Eva's mother after the war. So Eva's whole life was spent sharing Anne's diary. And then the three little ones are Otto's only grandchildren, then Eva's three daughters. So next slide. And one of my girls that I had through the international exchange, she was a German girl who had been teased on the playground, like kids do, and called a Nazi. When the European people go off on holiday, they call it, they go for 2, 3, sometimes even 4 weeks in the summer. And they just go from, they can go to a different country altogether. It's like us going to Indiana, So she remembers very clearly being in France, and they all spoke English so they could understand each other, but they're asking, where are you from, where are you from? And when she said she was German, they started calling her a Nazi. And the game that summer was let's run from the Nazis. So every time she came to the playground, they would scream Nazi at her. Not very fun for her. And it was very painful. And so when she came to Iowa to her host family, guess what a boy called her in one of her classrooms when she brand new, first or second day? A Nazi. So she was very sensitive about it. It hurt her very deeply, and it's not funny. It's absolutely not funny. It's very painful. For people with German descent, it is not their fault. As you start to research the Holocaust, you realize that the German people, they had very few choices. As a matter of fact, their choices were, for the men, young men and older men, put on a Nazi uniform or die. They were going to shoot you. You had virtually no choice. So how many real Nazis do you think there were? I think the percentage was pretty small. I think the German people are good people, and they were caught in a bad period of history. And sometimes the kids of German descent still suffer today, and it's very sad. So Barbara wanted to do something, and she heard when I told her about my Holocaust children's books, she researched a woman named Irina Sindler, who was Catholic, and Barb was Catholic. And Irina saved 2,500 kids out of the Warsaw Ghetto. And what she would do is she would go to the gate, she would talk to the Jewish people, she would tell them the truth. You're not going to go to a work camp, you're going to go to an extermination camp. They are going to kill your family. There's only one chance for your children, and that is to give them to me. Now think of that, moms and dads, how you would feel about that. How hard that would be for you to pass your most precious possession, your child, off to this woman. But 2,500 parents made that choice, and some of them did survive, and she documented every name. There was a Hallmark movie made about her, actually. She's a very famous righteous Gentile. Corrie ten Boom was also another very famous righteous Gentile. A lot of you have read probably about her, seen her movie. She's fantastic. So Barb wrote this book and illustrated it, and it made her feel so good. So I took her to libraries. We dedicated the books to the libraries and things like that. She really enjoyed her time. So next slide. This is Barb, and she's with another German girl. Obviously, we're at McDonald's. And this girl got to portray Eva Schloss in a play. So she was at Alleman High School, and Roberta portrayed her and got to meet her and spend some time with her, which was very powerful for her. Bottom slide is Sergio from Romania, who wrote about Eva, and Ida Kramer, who loved kids from Europe, of course, and spend time with them and talk to them about the war. And then Barbara again, Barbara Schlosser. So next slide. It's so interesting that my two passions, when I started to look into it, it was after the Second World War that the young people, they developed the exchange program to give kids hope. There had just been such a horrific period of time. So that's when foreign exchange began. And, of course, there's several companies that do the same thing, and it's all done to try to create peace. When you love somebody from a country, it's a lot harder to think about war. So I don't know. Hopefully it helps to have these kids come here. Next slide. And this is another, when I was speaking in a Christian school one day, we started talking about this, so I put this slide in. Were all Germans true Nazis, the kids asked me, and we talked about it, and we decided no, that they weren't true Nazis. They were caught up in the whole thing. And so then we started talking about today. What's going on today? Are all Muslims terrorists? Absolutely not. These three boys, the three older boys, are my exchange students. One's from Mexico. He's Catholic. But the one in the middle, he's from Yemen, which is certainly in the news today. And the other boy in the striped on the right, he's from Bangladesh. And they're playing with another boy's host brothers. They're playing baseball for the first time in their life in a cornfield. And they're not. They're not all terrorists. And they're caught up in a very bad imaging situation today as well. And so I talked to them about trying to speak out about the people that are doing bad things that may live in their very own country. So next slide. My husband and I were able to take our kids to Scotland. And, I never dreamed that one day that I would be speaking in schools and speaking in clubs and churches or synagogues about the Holocaust. It wasn't my dream, but it just kind of opened up to me, and I felt like I had to do it. It was just on my heart to do it. And I think I've come to believe that it's just part of who I am and part of my destiny. And when we were in Scotland, we were at this castle in Edinburgh. And I didn't realize it, but you learn a lot when you travel. And the kings and queen of Scotland and today England stand up on the stone. And that's where they get crowned. That's where they have their coronation. And so we were standing there looking at that stone of destiny, and I thought, each one of us, human beings on planet Earth, we come to that period of time where we cry out to God and say, what is our destiny? What are we supposed to be doing? And for me, for whatever reason, it seems like I'm to work with these survivor stories and get them documented. But I don't know what it is for each one of you. So I just ask kids today to think about that and hunger for that. Be ready for that. Don't settle for less. Next slide. This is my newest dream. My dream is when our son was ready to take his 8th grade field trip to D.C., I noticed that it was probably less than a third of the kids in his class who were able to go. And they were going to go to the Holocaust Museum, but the teachers that were going were telling me that that's optional for all the programs. They don't have to go to the Holocaust Museum. And some of the kids think it's a real drag, and it is. It's really a hard subject. But it's important that you go and see these things with your own eyes. So my husband had this idea of buying a semi-trailer and remodeling it and making a mobile Holocaust museum and telling the story of the Quad Cities Three Esters. And what we plan to do is to get the trailer and have artwork and tell the stories with a professional actor doing the voices and having the ladies' voices dubbed in as well. And then talking about the camps by name where their families were extinguished. And then on the other wall, have it be pitch black, and then have a pinpoint of light come on for the kids, and then tell them that light represents 10,000 Jewish lives. And then the wall comes alive with lights. And then our announcer starts reading the names of the camps, and as he reads them, the lights begin to be extinguished until it's dark.